Eli was never the kind of student who slacked off. He was the kind who color-coded notes, who stayed after class for clarification, who carried the quiet pressure of someone terrified to fall behind. It started innocently. A friend, a whispered suggestion before finals week, "It's just Adderall, it helps you focus." Eli hesitated, then reasoned with himself. It wasn't heroin. It wasn't even illegal, at least not if you had a prescription. Just one pill to study longer. That single choice was the start of a pattern his brain would remember far better than any exam material. At first, it was everything the rumors promised. The fog lifted, his mind sharpened, time bent to his will. He felt productive, invincible, efficient, words that feed the modern student's hunger for perfection. Behind the surface, though, Eli's brain was changing. Adderall, a mix of amphetamine salts, flooded his synapses with dopamine and norepinephrine. The prefrontal cortex, responsible for attention and impulse control, lit up like a city skyline at night. Signals moved faster, decisions came easier. For a while, it felt like evolution itself had handed him an upgrade. But the brain is not a passive machine. It adapts. With each pill, dopamine receptors grew less sensitive. The same dose produced less reward. The bright cityscape in his mind began to dim. What once felt like clarity now demanded maintenance. So Eli took more, and slowly, the definition of normal began to shift. What had once been enhancement became survival. He told himself he still had control, the rationalization of every early addict. He wasn't chasing a high, just trying to stay level. But addiction doesn't announce itself. It creeps in, hiding behind the language of productivity. Days blurred into nights. Sleep disappeared, replaced by a restless energy that left him hollow. Meals became optional. Emotions dulled, except for anxiety, which sharpened into a constant hum beneath his skin. Inside his brain, the reward circuit, the mesolimbic pathway, was burning itself out. The nucleus accumbens, once flooded with dopamine, now barely reacted. The prefrontal cortex, fatigued by overstimulation, began to lose its grip. The very system designed to regulate impulse was compromised. Neuroscience calls this hypofrontality, a state where rational thought gives way to compulsion. Eli's world grew narrower. Grades stopped rising, focus fractured. His once brilliant mind was caught in a feedback loop. When the pills wore off, he felt empty, chemically and emotionally. And the emptiness whispered, "Take another." It's easy to moralize addiction, to see it as weakness. But in psychology, we understand it differently, as learning gone wrong. The brain remembers what rewards it. Each time Eli took Adderall, the association between pill and performance grew stronger. Eventually, the memory itself became a trigger, a conditioned cue. The brain's reward system learned that the fastest path to focus was chemical. This is the paradox of psychostimulant use. What begins as a shortcut to self-control ends by eroding it. As weeks passed, side effects deepened. Heart racing, tremors, the hollow-eyed stare of sleepless nights. Eli began to miss the version of himself who didn't need this, the version who believed effort alone was enough. But his brain had rewritten that belief. Without Adderall, his baseline dopamine levels had dropped. Motivation, once internal, now required external ignition. The same neurochemical imbalance that once gave him an edge now held him hostage. This is the neurobiology of dependence. The reward system no longer functions normally without the drug. Even after stopping, recovery takes time. Receptors must heal. Neurotransmitter systems must rebalance. It's not just quitting a substance. It's teaching the brain to feel natural motivation again. For Eli, the turning point came not as a dramatic collapse, but as a quiet realization. Sitting in the library, surrounded by open books and closed eyes, he realized he wasn't studying anymore. He was surviving. The pills that promised control had taken it. He reached out, first to a friend, then a counselor. And through that small act, recovery began. Not instantly, not perfectly, but with honesty. Psychologically, recovery meant rewiring habits. Behavioral therapy helped him understand his triggers. Gradual tapering prevented withdrawal shock. He relearned focus through routine, rest, and patience, the slow, unglamorous neuroplasticity of healing. Over time, the dopamine system recalibrated. The fog lifted, but differently this time. Softer, less euphoric, more human. Eli began to rediscover the kind of focus that doesn't come from chemistry, but from meaning. In the end, his story is not about failure, but about biology and belief colliding. It's about how a molecule designed to help can harm when used without balance. and how the human brain, resilient and adaptive, can find its way back. The psychology of addiction is the psychology of learning, unlearning, and learning again. Every neuron that once screamed for the next dose can, over time, whisper something new. Patience, purpose, peace. Focus or fixation. The difference lies not in the pill, but in the person. The mind's desire to do more, be more, achieve more, that is the spark. And like all sparks, it can illuminate or consume. In the end, Eli's story reminds us that behavior is not destiny. The same brain that falls into addiction can rise from it, not as it was before, but wiser. Because sometimes, losing control is how we finally understand what it means to have it.